Another new podcast studio, ESPN's podcasting strategy, Politics Live and the British Podcast Awards 2019.
Welcome to the Richard Daly Podcast, bringing you a UK perspective on the latest news and developments from the world of podcasting and internet radio.
Welcome to episode 35. I'm your host, Richard Daly. Each week I curate and discuss the latest news in podcasting and internet radio, with a focus on the smaller podcaster, radio host and DJ. First, a quick update on Rebel Media's podcasting studio that I mentioned last week. Since I recorded that episode, they have announced that they are offering the opportunity to get free recording sessions until June 2019. I recommend you visit their website at rebelbasemedia.io/studio for more details. They even have an online booking system that shows you the slots when the studio is available for booking. Talking of recording studios, a new studio has opened in Cork in Ireland. This studio has been launched by a company called Republic of Work. It's another broadcast quality studio. It's actually used by 2 national radio stations as well. The studio is available for hire by businesses and individuals, and as well as the recording facilities, Republic of Work can also provide a range of production and editing services by their team, who all have radio backgrounds. For more information on podcasting at Republic of Work, you can visit republicofwork.com. Are you into sports? If you follow any American sports like American football or golf, you'll have heard commentary from ESPN. I've always felt that their broadcasters bring an extra level of skill and professionalism. I assume they get proper training before being allowed behind the microphone, and they probably get ongoing coaching to help them improve as well. I came across an interesting interview this week. Steve Goldstein of Amplify Media interviewed Troy Keller, who heads the ESPN audio office. They discussed how ESPN has gone all in on podcasting. Currently, ESPN puts out 11 time-shifted podcasts and 40 original podcasts. Last year, they saw a 16% increase in listens, and their biggest podcast is getting downloaded about 7 or 8 million times a month. You can read the full interview on the Amplify Media blog. I'll put a link in the show notes. The interview discusses why ESPN sees podcasting as such an important part of their strategy and what their vision is for the future. It's a good read with some interesting insights into how a broadcast business can embrace podcasting. They've definitely embraced the differences between radio and TV broadcasts and podcasts. Podcasting allows the broadcasters to be more personal and to go deeper into the topics being discussed. Podcasting can also be more niche down than broadcast shows, as it's easier for them to focus on a specific audience demographic. You can have several podcasts on a similar topic, but aimed at different audiences. That's just not possible on TV or radio, where you can only broadcast one show at a time on the channel. Interestingly, the average ESPN podcast listener age is 33. Chalk notes that this is some 13 years younger than the audience for ESPN radio. Goldstein and Chalk also discussed the question of whether podcasts take listeners away from radio. ESPN has found that the more platforms and places a show or broadcaster can be found, the better. Now, I definitely agree with this. Be everywhere is a great approach so you can raise your profile as high as possible. If you're in London on the 7th of April, a new group is organising their first event. Podcast Live has been set up to create live events where podcasters can host live versions of their shows in front of an audience, and where podcast fans can see podcasts being created live and can interact with the hosts and guests. The Podcast Live team describe themselves as a bunch of podcast fans. They all have radio and podcasting backgrounds at major companies in the industry and include Matt Deegan, a co-creator of the British Podcast Awards and the Next Radio Conference, and John Myers, the former CEO of GMG Radio. The first event they are organising is called Politics Live, and it's taking place on Sunday the 7th of April 2019 at the Light in Euston in London. Tickets start from £15 to attend an individual session or £40 for an all-day ticket. There are expected to be at least 10 podcasts taking part, including Romaniacs, the Times Red Box podcast, How I Found My Voice, the Delling Pod, and For the Many. Other themed events are being planned for the future, and they'll apparently include topics such as sport, lifestyle and wellness. For more information and to buy tickets, go to podcastlive.com. I mentioned the British Podcast Awards, and there are only a couple of days left to submit podcasts for the 2019 awards. The closing date for entries is the 1st of March, so if you want to enter your podcast, you don't have much time. This is the 3rd year of the awards, which aim to showcase the best British podcasts of the year. All types of podcast producers are invited to enter, and there are plenty of different categories to allow different genres to be recognised. In fact, there are 15 categories and 3 special awards, as well as the Podcast of the Year, which is chosen from the winners of each of the 15 main categories. For more details about entering and about the awards night itself, which is on the 18th of May in London, visit BritishPodcastAwards.com. Now, I don't know many people who still maintain a pro account on SoundCloud. I know I cancelled mine a while ago now, but if you do have one, SoundCloud has just announced that they have introduced a distribution tool which allows creators to have their uploads pushed to other music and digital services. Some of the platforms supported by this are Amazon Music, Apple Music, Instagram, Spotify, Tencent and YouTube Music. This might well be useful for anyone posting original content on SoundCloud. Now, you must have 0 copyright strikes and at least 1,000 monetizable track plays per month in the markets where the listen, subscribe and advertising programs are available. This means the US, UK, Canada, Australia, France, Germany, Ireland, the Netherlands and New Zealand. If you're in one of these countries, then take a look and see if this might be useful for you. I can certainly see the Instagram integration being potentially useful. Finally for this week, a quick update on my radio show. Not a lot to report, to be honest. I've been spending some time considering the format and looking at sources of material for the storytelling parts of the show. Hopefully I'm going to have more progress to report next time. Okay, so that's all the news from the Richard Daly podcast for this week. If you enjoyed this episode, do share it with a friend on Apple Podcasts. You can now find this podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, PodSearch and wherever else you listen to podcasts. If you visit my website at richarddaly.com, you will find all of my social media links, as well as the various ways you can subscribe to the show. The show notes for this episode are at richarddaly.com/35. As usual, please send me your questions or comments, and if there is a topic you'd like me to cover, then you can tweet me. As always, I really do appreciate your feedback. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.